Hello, hi, a very happy good evening. So this is Krishna Ma'am talking about the story of life on earth, and that's biology. So here we are in the quick revision of your CBSE. So here we are in the last but one chapter before, that is organism and population, one of the huge chapters I would say, and one of the chapters that students are really allergic to because they don't want to read something very huge. They always count the pages, that if the number of pages is short, I'll finish the chapter soon. But let me tell you, this chapter is of particular importance when you come at the higher level or when you want to do a course in ecology. So foreign countries offer a specialization in ecology, dynamics and conservation. So there's a lot into ecology, I would say, and if you would like to choose that path, so anytime your interest can change. Even after you do MBBS, you can become a researcher, you can become a PhD student. So this might be of use to you. So that is organism and population. So it's a very interesting chapter, though I agree it's a bit long and the pages are never ending. It seems so, but actually it has a lot of informative content that it can contain. So let's go through it as quickly as possible because it's quick revision, so I won't halt anywhere. So wherever you find it difficult to understand, so please ask me once again and I'm ready to explain. Okay, so here we go. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, so this is not working, so let's go with the normal method itself. Yeah, so organism and its environment, the first thing you have to understand is every organism has a niche, right? So I hope you know cells make up tissues, tissues make up organs, organs make up organ system makes up individuals, individuals make up community, individuals make up a population, population makes up a community, community makes up an ecosystem or a biome, right? So you have different ecosystems, you have different biomes, like you have a desert biome, you have a tropical rainforest ecosystem, or a desert or a aquatic biome, etc. So you have various things, but what exactly defines it is the niche. So every organism has a niche where it has its zone of comfort. Fine. Okay, so there are four abiotic factors which actually defines how does a different biome differ in various reasons. So the four factors include your temperature, water, light and soil. So we start with your temperature. So why is that temperature is very significant? First of all, temperature affects your enzyme kinetics. So my body's internal temperature is 37 degree. By chance, if it moves up to 42 degree, my body's enzymes will not function. So we have read biomolecules and it is pretty clear that every enzyme has an optimum temperature and every enzyme has an optimum pH, right? So in that case, we should be very careful because temperature is the most important and economic factor because it affects your enzyme kinetics. So we are organisms who can actually tolerate a wide range of temperature. If the outside temperature is 50 degree, I sweat so that my body temperature comes down to 37. So if the outside temperature is 0 degree, I shiver, so heat is produced, so my body temperature is 37 degree, right? Fine. So moving forward, the next one is water. So based on temperature, you have one term, that is your eurythermal and stenothermal. So you have to remember these terms. What is stenothermal? What is eurythermal? So stenothermal, thermal is temperature. So stenothermal, it is able to survive in a narrow range of temperature. So eurythermal in a broad range of temperature. Like you and I can survive in a broad range of temperature, penguins cannot, right? Okay, so the next one is water. So water is more important because life began with water and life continues, and water is important for the sustainability of life on earth, right? Fine. So can we say that aquatic organisms have no problem at all because they always live in water? No, they do have problem. What is their problem is they are affected by the salinity of water, so which is literally the salt concentration. So this salt concentration is measured as salinity. So it is measured in parts per thousand. So this value is important, less than 5 in inland water, 30 to 35 in sea, and greater than 100 in hypersaline lagoons. Okay. So here also you have uric-haline and steno-haline. Haline is salinity. So uric-haline, broad range, steno-haline, narrow range. Sorry, this is wide range, this is narrow range. So the next one is soil. So light is also equally important because you have nocturnal creatures, diurnal creatures, and plants need light for your photoperiodism. Right, so you have long day plants, short day plants in your plant growth and development. So light is essential for plants as well and animals as well. So next one is soil. So soil is what determines which plant will go where, right? So there are a lot of characters like the soil composition, grain size, aggregation, so which determines the percolation and water holding capacity. So moving further, so how do we respond to these body temperature is by 4 ways. So 4 abiotic factors we respond in 4 ways. The first way is we confirm, next is we regulate, suspend or migrate. So we higher beings can regulate our internal body temperature irrespective of whatever the external temperature is. We can maintain the internal temperature as 37 degrees, right? So there are certain groups which cannot maintain a constant internal temperature, so they conform. So they give up to the external temperature, and whatever is the external temperature, they go according with it. So there are certain groups which suspend. So when there is unfavorable conditions, so species like bears, they hibernate, right? So fishes undergo a stage called diapause where they do not move and the metabolic reactivity slows down. And you know, birds during extreme winters, they migrate. Your Siberian cranes is one good example. So that is how we respond to these abiotic factors, right? So constant body temperature. So conform, they are simply conformers because internal temperature is an energetically expensive process, right? Yeah. So this is the reason. So then we have migrate. So birds migrate during extreme weather conditions, right? And then suspend, like bears go into hibernation and fish undergo diapause. So what is adaptation? So in a way, all that we read, the way we respond to the abiotic factors, that is regulate, conform, suspend and migrate. So your adaptation is also in a way same. But adaptation can be at the physiological level, behavioral level and morphological level. So what is the difference? So we will see. So there is one person, this fellow is called as the kangaroo rat. This has a physiological adaptation. So this fellow lives in the deserts of the North America, and when it has less water, its internal fat oxidation can provide it with more water. So the body knows how to regulate itself. That is physiological response. That is physiological adaptation. Right, so we go to the next one. So we have your morphological adaptation. For example, bacteria, they have your cactus and optinia, they have thorns. So it's a type of adaptation so that the organisms, the herbivores, do not come and graze it. So these are ways that they are adapted to survive. Camp plants, so we have recently discussed camp plants. Their scotoactive opening, that is a stomata opens during the night. So these are adaptations so that they can survive properly. And there's something called as Allen's rule. So organisms or mammals living in your colder regions, they always have small ears and small paws. So they do not have as big ears as your rhinoceros or your elephants. That is because that reduces the escape of heat from their body. They need more heat because it's very cold outside, right? So that is your Allen's rule. Fine. Okay, so moving forward to the next one. So you further have adaptations like further physiological adaptations is like we have altitude sickness. But quickly as you trek up, your body produces more RBC to scavenge all the remaining oxygen. So this is also one type of your adaptation. So different organisms have different ways to overcome. So adaptation is wide and diverse. Right, so organisms survive everywhere. You have fish in Antarctica, so you have fishes living or life deep beneath the ocean floor, and this is in the hot sulfur springs, right? So there are some behavioral adaptations as well. Whereas we also show, for example, we also show behavioral adaptations in the sense that when it is hot, you turn on the AC. When it is cold, you turn on the room heater, right? So similarly, there is this fellow called as the garden lizard. So when it is feeling very cold, it will go and sit under the sun. And it is feeling very hot, it will hide away from the sun. This is your behavioral response. Fine? Yeah, so next part of the chapter is population. So always a species has a population. So if there's only one species, there is no point. There should be at least one more species on which it can mate with, or it can share, it can breed with, right? So always evolution or natural selection happens at the population level. So that is very important. I want you to consider that. Fine, okay? Yeah. So this population is a very important concept. So in a population you have certain features. So what are the features in a population? So first of all, it is the birth rate and the death rate. So in an individual it is just birthday and the death rate, but in a population it can be the birth rate, number of birth per population or per capita of the population, number of death per capita of the population, right? So apart from that, it can have sex ratio, because when I talk about a single individual, the individual is either male or female, right? So when I talk about a population, it's a sex ratio. So I can have 3:2, 3 female, 30% females, or the remaining can be males or something like etc. So that way you can actually correlate them, right? So when I say how badly the pandemic hit, so I will talk in terms of the population, not in terms of the individuals, right? So I will talk how the pandemic hit the Indian population, how it hit the Western population. So we talk in terms of population. So the three things I told you about population is birth rate, death rate, and your sex ratio. So here you have been given examples to calculate the birth rate and death rate. For all those who are preparing for your CBSE term 2 exam on 30th of May, that is Monday. So please remember, you can get questions like how to calculate the death rate or calculate the birth rate for the given conditions. So you should know how to do it, and it's on the board and it's there from your textbook. Okay? Yeah. So there's something called as an age pyramid. So for example, at a given population, so suddenly I go to a particular street and I say I'm going to take a ratio, I'm going to analyze the population. So I write down the age groups and I make a pyramid. So all the people in the particular population need not be of the same age. So if you take class 12 students, or if you take the ones who are going to give me exam on Monday, of course all your age does not match. At least one is 1 month older, one can be 2 years older. So it's a drastic difference, right? So that gives you your age pyramid. Hello, hi, a very happy good evening. Thank you so much for joining my lecture. So I hope you're doing well, and please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Okay, so that gives you the age pyramid. So this is an expanding pyramid, right? So you have the pre-reproductive population, that is young children. Post-reproductive is the elders, and this is a stable one. This is bell shape. Declining, this is urn shape. So you put the thread on so you wound the thread under the urn. So this is the urn shape, right? So this is bell shaped and this is the urn shape, right? So these are the three things, and this is also important for your CBSE term 2. Fine. So from this particular age pyramid, you come to know whether the population is growing, if it's stable, or if it is declining, right? Okay. So next we have this particular thing. So when you talk about a population, the population is not always context. Okay, ma'am, please do previous year questions and mnemonic. Yes, sure. Your suggestion is taken. I will look into it. All right. Okay. So whenever you talk about a population, the population size is not the same. So today, for example, to my class, say 20 students came. So tomorrow I have no guarantee 20 will come or more than 20 will come. So at such a small scale, if a population can differ, at a large scale, of course, it can differ, right? So always population is considered in terms of population density. So population density is N. Okay, so this population density is affected by 4 things. The first one is natality, that is birth rate. So number of births is technically called as natality. So if I have more number of births, that is going to increase the population size. So it is a positive aspect, right? Yes. So mortality is death rate. Number of deaths will decrease my population size. So it has a negative perspective. Then there's something called as immigration. So entering inside. Inside is immigration. So this will increase the population. Emigration, a group of population is exiting, so this will have negative effect. So all these 4 affects it. So here we have the formula, and please remember the formulas well, it is equally important, right? So NT plus 1, I want to know the population at time T plus 1, which is equal to the population density at that particular time. Say for example, after 2 years. So time period here is 2 years. So if I want to know the population after the 3rd year, it is population of the 2nd year plus B plus I, birth rate plus immigration, right? So these two increases the population. Death rate plus emigration, this decreases the population. So you have to take the difference between the two and you find NT plus 1. Alright. Hello ma'am, a very happy good evening. Thank you so much for joining my lecture today. So please do like, share and subscribe. Right. So this is clear. Okay. So we move forward. So you have this growth model. This growth model is also important. So sometimes in CBSE they directly ask you to explain the growth model. So they give a blunt question like explain or discuss the exponential growth model in a population or derive the formula for the exponential growth rate. So either way you have to read this concept. So please don't neglect it. Okay. So here if you talk about exponential growth rate, we are trying to say the resources are unlimited. The resources are so abundant. Okay. So in that case, if you want to talk about the population n, so the population n changes with time. So that is why I am using differential dn by dt. But the population is affected by b minus d into the population density. So I am assuming b minus d as r. So I write dn by dt is equal to rn. Fine. So R is the rate of intrinsic natural increase. So this is how it increases and this is my equation. So after doing my differential equation, so I am not doing max here, I am directly arriving at the answer, that is NT is equal to N naught e power RT. So I am telling you once again, whenever you write any equation on your paper, make sure you explain each and every term. So this fetches marks. Just writing this alone will not go ahead. NT is equal to N naught e power RT. So you should explain what is NT, N naught, R and E. I replied to your message. So you said please do previous year questions in mnemonic. So I said definitely I will look into it. Your suggestion is considered. What is placenta? So when the baby is present inside the mother's womb, the one which separates the mother's blood and the fetus blood is your placenta. Okay? Yes? Fine. So the next model is your logistic growth rate, right? So this logistic growth rate is very practical. It says no, the natural resource cannot supply everyone. It can only supply a limited population. So that is why we are having a depletion of everything, right? So today oil is getting depleted, sunlight, so everything, water is getting depleted. So everything is in a limited quantity to support a particular population, right? So that is the carrying capacity. So it's also called as the Wurst-Pearl logistic growth. Fine? Okay, so I am taking the same equation, but instead of this, I am supporting it with a carrying capacity. I am trying to say how much practically the particular resources can support a population, and please make sure you define each of the particular parameters in the equation. Yes? So how placenta is formed? So at the time of implantation, so I am please pardon me, I am taking his doubt. So at the time of implantation, you have a particular stage called as the blastocyst stage, right? So in the blastocyst stage, you have the outer tropoblast and the inner cell mass. So the tropoblast gets attached to the uterus of the mother and it becomes your placenta. Okay? Yes? Fine. So this is the logistic growth model. The last topic of this chapter is your population interaction. So a lot of populations keep interacting. So it is not that only human population can survive. So today if human population is surviving, we depend on animals for meat. We depend on cow for milk. We depend on plants for a lot of things, right? So every population has to interact with each other, and the different ways by which it interacts, it is given here. Mutualism. It's like your mutual fund, both are benefited. So positive means benefited. Competition. So if there is a very bad competition, then both are hurt in some way or the other. So negative effects, yes, both are harmed. Predation, right? A lion killing a goat. Lion is benefited, the goat is harmed. So placid minus parasitism. Us and the coronavirus, you can say. So coronavirus enjoyed, but we suffered. So that is parasitism. Commensalism. One is benefited, the other is neutral. It does not get harmed, it does not get benefited. The other one is amensilism. Amensilism is you harm the other organism, but the other is either harmed or benefited, right? Okay, so we will talk in detail about competition, about predation and parasitism. Commensalism, I'll give you example. For example, when you see you have barnacles living on the surface of whale. So if you're a person who would watch a lot of National Geographic videos in your Hotstar, so you can see the documentary on the whales, okay? So if you closely watch, on the surface of the whales, you have a lot of creatures living. So they are called as barnacles. So these barnacles need a place to live. So they live on the surface of whales. So in a way, the barnacles are benefited, but the whales are not harmed. That is commensalism. An example of amensilism is giraffe. So I will tell you how. So giraffe usually feeds on a nearby acacia tree. So beneath the acacia tree, you have grasses. So as the giraffe walks, the grasses are harmed, but the grasses do not harm the giraffe. So that is an example of amensilism. Alright, let's go forward. So predation. So when you talk about predation, you remember this figure. So you should know why predation is important. So first of all, predation is important because that is nature's way of transferring the energy from one trophic level to the next trophic level. Right? So one more thing, to keep the prey population in check, predator has to eat it. So imagine if the number of deer population outsmarts the number of trees, then they will die. So to keep them in check, the tigers hunt them, right? The other way is to avoid interference competition. Imagine there are 10 deers and there are only 5 plants. So if the tiger hunts down the deers, the competition between them will reduce, right? So that is also reason. But just like that, the deer will not surrender to the tiger, so always it will run for its life, right? There are ways the prey also saves its life. So they camouflage, they have thorns, they produce poisonous cardiac glycosides. So there are different ways by which they protect themselves as well. So predation is as such a very important population interaction. Yeah. So all this I told you? Yes. So this is all I have discussed. How they predate themselves, how they survive, how they protect themselves. Now talking about competition. So it is not that competition happens only between closely related species. Today we compete with dogs and cows also, no? Yes? Tell me or not. So we are very, very prudent in nature, so we have become so. Right? So we don't want a dog to sit under the shelter. We shoot away, go, because you'll dirty this place. So how many of us, if a cow walks near a vegetable shop, you should see the force with which the vegetable vendor slaps the cow. So hooray, we are competing with everything. So there's no difference between whether we are 5 cents or 6 cents. It does not matter. We are all monkeys at the end of the day, right? Alright, so here we have Charles Darwin, the father of evolution, who said that competition occurs between 2 closely related species. And competition occurs if the resources are limiting. Let me tell you, competition does not occur if the resource is limiting. Let me tell you a simple example at home. If you have a sibling, if you have 2 ice creams, your sibling will say, I want to eat the 2. All the 2, right? So it does not mean that if there's only 1 ice cream, you're fighting for it, that's fine, but no. So all these has been overruled, right? Yes. So one example is your flamingos. The flamingos actually eat the fishes, which even the resident fishes feed on. So interference competition is very common. So competition does not happen when the resources are limited. So when I feed stray dogs, so there is always one dawn dog which comes and eats everything and does not allow the others to eat. Though I have so many biscuits, the dawn dog dominates here, right? So these are some of the ways. So with respect to competition, you have certain hypothesis or formulas that you have to remember. One is competitive release. Okay, so for example, if the predominant one moves away into another geographic region, the minority ones can live. So that is what it means, right? Yeah, next you have competitive exclusion principle, that different organisms have to coexist, right? So I cannot say in my team there are so many bad people, there are so many gossipers, so I cannot join with them. I should know how to survive. That is the game, right? So in that case, I will learn strategies, or I will devise strategies in which I can survive. So people should learn how to coexist, and one such example is your warblers. So they are a group of birds. They are 5 different varieties. They live in the same bird, but they don't fight. because each one has a particular timing at which they come out and they scavenge food. Okay, so this is competitively coexisting. Talking about parasites, so parasites can be many, they can be host specific. So some parasites infect only plants, some animals and some humans. So as we develop antibiotics to kill bacteria, bacteria has become antibiotic resistant. So you have ectoparasite, endoparasite, and I guess you know what is brood parasitism. So a bird lays an egg and puts it in another's nest to incubate it. So that is brood parasitism, very typical mindset of humans. So commensalism, I have explained orchids and barnacles. So that is how barnacles look on the surface of your whales. So when a small plant like this goes on the bark of a mango tree, the mango tree isn't going to be harmed, right? So these are some of the ways. So commensalism, one is harmed, the other one is neither benefited or not harmed. So sea anemone, it's very huge, so it can actually protect or hide the clownfish, so it has no loss, but the clownfish is benefited. So you would have seen an ergot sitting on top of a cow, and many times in my childhood I wondered why is the bird sitting on the cow and why isn't the cow getting angry. That's because as the cow is grazing, so the ergot gets the sight of the insect that it is looking for, so it is easy, but the cow isn't harmed. I don't think the ergot is pretty heavy, right? Yeah, so with this we come to the end of this chapter. So where can the questions come from? So definitely a question can come from the population density NT concept, exponential and logistic growth rate and interactions of the population. So please make sure you read this chapter well. This is very important from NEET as well as from CBSE point of view. So we are left with only one chapter to revise for your CBSE board, that is biodiversity and conservation, which we'll do tomorrow. So with this we end this chapter. So I know I have a lot of books for you to show. You can purchase them, and it's my sincere request once again to purchase these test series. So it will be really of great benefit to you, and please let your juniors and your siblings know about the course that is beginning on 1st of June, right? So if you genuinely liked my way of teaching, so please do like, share and subscribe. So thank you so much for patiently listening to my lecture, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And there's also one of my video called heat box, and please do watch the video. So I guess it will give you a lot of extra information. So thank you. I'll meet you tomorrow at 5:30. So until then, this is me signing off. So take care and bye. Thank you.